Mass-produced glass items are typically shaped by machines, which pour molten glass into an assembly line of moulds. Special items are usually cast individually, with the artist carefully working the molten glass into a mould crafted by skilled mould makers. Moulds of this type are entirely handcrafted. This one, comprised of 3 sections, produces the ornate shade of a glass candle lamp. This one, comprised of 2 sections, produces the lamp's base. The glass manufacturer submits the design sketch of the item to the mould workshop. Using computer software, the sketch is converted into technical drawings. Then, following the drawings, workers prepare a wooden pattern for the mould. First, a paper template is made for each mould section. Then they trace the template on a piece of wood, saw along the pencil line, and then refine the shape with a sander. They send the patterns for the mould sections to a foundry, which will cast them in iron. So when they return from the foundry, the mould makers refine each section with a series of milling machines. This takes a tremendous degree of expertise, as the machines are not controlled by computer. These skilled craftsmen maneuver the mills manually, following the technical drawings. Once they've finalised the shape, they use a drill press to bore holes for the pins on which the mould sections will pivot. Iron is the ideal material for glass moulds because it can hold molten glass at a temperature of over 1,000 degrees Celsius. Iron expands under such heat. However, once it cools, it contracts and resumes its original shape without any distortion. They mount the mould section on a lathe to begin forming the cavity. Using a tool called a boring bar, a mould maker shapes the cavity, following the technical drawings again. Then he takes the mould section off the lathe and paints the cavity yellow. This gives him a bright background against which to sketch out the fine details of the design. This particular pattern features circles, which he sketches with compasses. Using an array of chisels with different tips, he chips away the metal to carve out what he sketched. Again, he follows the technical drawings meticulously, giving the carved lines the specified depth and profile. Once he finishes the pattern, he mounts the mould section on one side of a mechanical copying machine called a pantograph. On the other side, he mounts another section of the mould, which has yet to be carved. The pantograph's stylus traces the pattern from the carved section and simultaneously moves an engraving tool through identical motions on the uncarved section, thus transferring the pattern. Because this is a 3-section mould, they make 2 copies on the pantograph. The carving tools leave marks on the surface of the cavity, so the next step is to polish them away with an emery paper. On the right, you can see the marks, and on the left, the smooth, polished surface. The sections are now ready to be assembled with pins into a complete mould. When it's time to pour in the molten glass, the pins enable the sections to close and interlock. Once the glass cools and solidifies, it's also easier to open the mould to extract the casting. Glass artisans and glass manufacturers alike use handcrafted moulds to produce a wide variety of glass items, from functional to fancy.